Russia has invaded Ukraine.
War coverage has changed a lot. From the Vietnam War
It was the first televised war.
to live coverage of the Gulf War.
The skies over Baghdad have been illuminated.
Now we're bombarded constantly with images of the war in Ukraine on the internet.
I've never in my career seen anything remotely similar to what I saw in the first 2-3 weeks. Every newspaper was covering what they thought was best. There are things that we just never wrote about and everybody else wrote about. And there are things we wrote about the New York Times never wrote about. But nobody managed to cover every angle. It was just impossible.
This is the Washington Post team that was stationed out in Kharkiv. We decided to take off this morning.
We have reporters on the ground in Ukraine and surrounding areas.
We were told by territorial defense units that this was an ambush by Russian infiltrators.
Reporters keep everyone accountable. Without them, we wouldn't be able to see what's really happening. But it's of course dangerous.
The challenges mostly are just kind of weighing the risks between doing your job, the importance of being at the scene and getting firsthand accounts, and personal safety.
We're kind of hearing sporadic booms outside, but unclear of just how close kind of everything is to us at this moment.
The question you're weighing, can we get there? Because you want to get there no matter what the situation is, but it's just the logistics, what risks you're comfortable with taking and what risks are actually smart to take.
In addition to dodging bullets and bombs, another challenge reporters on the ground face is being targeted by the Russians. We saw this happen in Mariupol with 2 AP journalists who were trying to document possible war crimes while also being hunted by the Russian army. They barely made it out.
Traditionally, all sides in a war needed the news media to communicate their perspective. And so journalists would put press on their flak jackets or their clothes. They would type TV or press with big tape letters on their cars. You were safe.
One American civilian journalist was killed just outside the capital of Kyiv.
So in this case, for Russia, clearly the value of the journalist is not in conveying Russia's perspective. The only value of the journalist becomes as an instrument to communicate either lies or, just as often, to communicate fear and terror. The value of a journalist becomes as a hostage. The value of a journalist becomes as a corpse. And that is a fundamental change in the dynamic of war.
Because it isn't always safe to have our reporters in high-risk areas, we've had to turn to open sources like social media and satellite imagery.
If we hear of an event occurring, if we hear of potentially an attack, we're going to start looking for whatever imagery is available. Of course, we're going to turn to social media. A lot of times eyewitnesses are going to be uploading to different channels.
We just had a bomb strike here. But just to compare, this is my leg.
If we're not seeing videos, we're going to probably turn to satellite imagery. So if we know that an attack, say at the Mariupol Theater, occurred, we are going to be looking at historical views of the theater, and then we're going to be trying to find satellite imagery of the day of the attack.
Using social media and other open sources is a tool newsrooms have turned to more and more in the past decade or so.
Good morning, bad news.
In fact, the war in Ukraine is being talked about so much on social platforms like TikTok that even the White House hosted a press conference for TikTok influencers.
I know it might seem hilarious and crazy and insane for the White House to be briefing TikTok stars on anything, but you have to understand that these TikTokers are basically the new media. So it's where young people go to discover information. It's where narratives take shape. It's where we source news content.
We all know social media is a double-edged sword. It's a great way to access information, but it's also easy to spread a lot of false information.
Vladimir Putin is waging an information war as well as a ground and air war. The idea of shutting down social media to the extent he can, putting out a lot of false information, driving Western journalists out of the country, driving independent Russian journalists out of the country. And what autocrats really want is to control the message, to control the information flow. I think as we look at the efforts to fight against autocracy and to promote democracy throughout the world, one of the things that really is important is good journalism.